Hello and welcome. In today's series of the Tech Savvy Talks, we will be discussing the application security in the age of AI. Here with me on this call is Jordan Popov, who is our senior security engineer, and my name is Radostina Kundakova. I am leading the cybersecurity practice in Scalefocus, which probably might be a little bit of a shock to you. So Scalefocus is mostly known because of tailored software development, but we do indeed have a cybersecurity practice which is mostly focused on the application security, since, like I said, we're developing mostly for software. Jordan here is our senior security engineer. He has a big amount of experience in software development, application security, bug bounty. I'm gonna even say penetration testing because he's quite good at it. Also, he's been working with customers from different segments, energy trading, fintech, developing very interesting software for a variety of reasons. So welcome, Jordan.
Thank you for the warm welcome.
Yes, so like I said, we'll be discussing today the aspect of the artificial intelligence and then application security. And honestly, artificial intelligence at the moment is a quite big hype. It has been for the past couple of years. I want to say probably from 2017, and became quite interesting. But how are we doing in terms of security in that aspect is another discussion. At the moment, we again are losing the battle between the offensive and defensive AI, and that's sort of a normal situation for security. Most of the time, it's a cat and mouse game between us and malicious users or hackers, and we try to prevent them as much as possible or to stop them as much as possible, but like we know, there's no 100% security. So when speaking about artificial intelligence, I want to say that this opened a quite new attack vector for everybody, and it has become a quite big challenge in terms of even regulatory requirements, because most of the time we see the regulations being very reactive, and right now let's say that the government officials in the different countries are trying to be very proactive in this direction. I want to say that we're probably going to be fools if we say that we're not going to be using artificial intelligence and our defense mechanisms, or if we're against that, because even hackers are using it. And according to HackerOne statistics, 53% of the hackers claim that they're using GenAI in terms of their hacking mechanisms. So I want to say that there are pros and cons in terms of the artificial intelligence, its integration, but it does possess quite big risks when it comes to even managing risks. But what is your opinion, Jordan, in terms of the risks in regards to AI, its implementation and the downside?
All right. Well, first, I would like to define what risk is. Simply said, risk is a function with two parameters, the impact and the likelihood. And that function returns a measurement of the potential loss or damage to an organization's assets. Now, so to make it more clear, I'll try to give an example. Most probably, people are familiar with the infamous Log4j vulnerability.
Indeed. I'm pretty sure there's not a person who hasn't heard about that.
Yeah, so you're definitely aware that it poses huge risk due to the fact that it's very trivial to exploit and the impact is huge. Where, on the other hand, if we look at Spectre or Meltdown vulnerabilities, they pose low risk simply because there are no practical exploits, and that means that the probability of someone exploiting them is low. Now, risk assessment, that is the process that iterates through all identified risks and basically evaluates what measures to take or not to take for them. Of course, that's based on the risk appetite of the organization. By risk appetite, I mean the amount of risk that an organization is willing to accept. So, for example, sectors like fintech or healthcare usually have very low risk appetite, where other sectors might have higher.
Indeed, and actually they don't have a choice because they're very heavily regulated because of the data that they're processing.
Exactly, they're dealing with very sensitive information. So going back to the question, basically there are two branches that I would like to explore. First one is how AI or machine learning algorithms can assist in the risk assessment. And the second one is what risk AI systems pose themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So on the first point, I believe AI can help with prioritizing and evaluating high number of risks. Additionally, it can also assist in pinpointing things that were potentially missed by the people. Other area that I see AI being very helpful is contextualizing vulnerabilities. So to elaborate, as you know, in my day-to-day work, I often have to triage vulnerabilities reported by different automated tools. So for example, let's say that there is a critical vulnerability in the parsing library that you're using. However, upon further investigation, it becomes clear that the vulnerability is actually in the XML parsing functionality that you're not really using. You're, let's say, using only the JSON serialization. So this means that the vulnerability is at the moment not exploitable. And in such cases, I believe AI can very helpful in giving additional context to the vulnerabilities. So on the other branch, what risks AI and ML pose themselves, basically, well, in general, it's considered an extremely bad practice to send your internal source code or internal know-how to a third-party systems that you're not managing.
Yes, but we do see it quite often.
Yeah, unfortunately. But this problem can be easily solved by simply using an open source large language models that are enriched with some domain knowledge and hosted, of course, internally, only for internal use. However, to be honest, this brings another issue because in order to have such systems, you need engineers who can actually set up and maintain such systems.
Which is actually one of the main problems because we have a lack of qualified experts in this area at the moment. We do have some people who are developing in this area, and I want to say that the same problem is with security experts as well. You have people who are developing, but because these are very broad topics, none of them, I would say, are so new. They just became very interesting in the couple of years, but we don't have that much of a capacity, human capacity. And in the end of the day, we still haven't gotten there that we can rely just on a machine without the expert behind it.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, AI can definitely help, but of course it might introduce other issues.
Yes, and what you said reminded me of this situation which I remember I read. There was this competition between ethical hackers, and they were given a certain amount of time to try to penetrate the system or to find very critical vulnerabilities. And what happened is that I think there were among 50 people, one of them decided to use ChatGPT and provided the source code which was given to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT was able, because that's a lot of code. I mean, for one person for you to review it on your own, it's going to take you a lot of time. And ChatGPT was able to give him like a starting point with low vulnerabilities, and after that, that person went to the room with all the other hackers with him, you know, ethical hackers we are talking, and they were able to escalate those to high vulnerabilities and actually to a successful attack vector. So this might be an example of a depending how you look at it, or a good bad example of in terms of security. It depends on which side you're actually sitting. If you're on the side of the ethical hacker, yes, this can help you, but you need to understand that if you're not doing this, somebody else is going to do it against you. Okay, and we discussed the risk, but two terms remained which are sort of circulating outside, and I think that people are sort of mistaking them. What is the difference between AI safety and AI security?
Okay, well, simply said, AI safety focus on preventing any potential negative consequences that an AI system can inflict on the people, where AI security is simply protecting the AI system itself.
And how can we prevent that AI system itself? What do we need to implement in that sort of matter?
Well, since AI is just a software, we can use the already known secure software development lifecycle.
Okay, and you said secure software development lifecycle, but what is actually secure software development lifecycle, and what is the difference between the secure one and the regular development lifecycle?
Okay, well, I'll start with the traditional software development lifecycle. Basically, that's a framework for developing software. Basically, a blueprint on how you can, what processes you should have when developing an application. There are roughly around 6 phases or steps. The first one is planning. Planning, this is where the initial idea is conceived, what functionalities should the application contain, and what problem is trying to solve. Then we have the requirements phase. Here we define all functional, technical, and non-technical requirements for the application, and that's based on the defined functionalities from the previous step. Next is the design phase. This is where the architecture is created, which at minimum should contain the tech stack, all the application flows, and potentially if there are third-party dependencies or integrations. Next phase is the development and testing, where the actual code is written and of course tested. After that is the deployment. This is basically the moment where the application goes live and it's up and running in a dedicated production environment. So what's left is the final phase, which is maintenance. This is the moment where the application starts being monitored, improved, and supported. So yeah, that was the traditional software development lifecycle. Now the idea of the secure software development lifecycle is to shift left.
Before you answer that, I want to add another question here. Where do you, in the traditional one, where do you normally see security? Where is security normally being implemented? On which phase?
There are actually 2 options. First one is to ignore security altogether.
Unfortunately, yes, that
it
is
happens
some
very
of
a
the.
lot. Yeah, and second is usually post-implementation, after the application is developed and it's already running.
And I also seen a third case to add to that is in the testing phase. Sometimes, depending on, I would say, outside factors, companies are pushed or themselves decide to do a penetration test, which sort of is like you're trying to put a hat on the already developed software and you expect, to not have many problems, which I would say is a very wrong approach, unfortunately.
Exactly.
I think that people are starting to learn, but again, security is seen like some kind of as an insurance policy where not all the people are sort of willing to go in that direction. But yes, how do we do then secure software development?
So as I was saying, the idea is to shift left security, which means to potentially integrate security in all of the phases that I talked about. So for example, in the planning phase, you can add risk assessment to the features that you want, to the functionalities and features that you want to have. Then in the requirements phase, based on the identified risks, you can include security requirements, technical security requirements, and if you have the capabilities, even do a threat model. In the design phase, this is where all of the security requirements are sort of embedded in the architectural proposal, and of course validated by a subject matter expert like a security engineer. And the development phase. In this phase we add security by introducing additional toolings in the continuous integration pipeline, like static code analysis, dynamic code analysis. Also, in my opinion, here it's essential that all code undergoes a secure code review, and if needed, even a white box pen test. Then we have the deployment phase. Here we can integrate security by conducting a security assessment on the target environment and ensuring that all access control are properly configured. Finally, in the maintenance, security is integrated by having regular patches on the systems, also monitoring for suspicious runtime events, and of course doing regularly penetration tests.
And based on our experience here, these are a lot of items here. Very hard probably even for people to digest. But from our experience, what are the most common items that we see which are being implemented? Sort of the tools and the development phase from my end.
Yeah, but before that I want to talk about why do we want to have a secure software development lifecycle and why do we care about security. Well, in my opinion, if you really think about it, the applications are like a gateway to the internal servers and the internal network of the organization. So it's essential to protect them.
Indeed. My takeaway here is that the tool itself, it's not going to make you bulletproof. You still need to have the policies and processes in place, which are extremely essential, because having just the tools, even having the best tools, is not going to do you any good if you do not have the accurate processes and what you're going to do with the output of these tools. So, what is actually the primary goal which we're trying to achieve with the secure software development? What are we aiming at?
Well, again, in my opinion, the most important benefit of adopting secure software development lifecycle is the mind shift. Basically, instead of having the old school reactive approach where you're securing things only after they've been compromised, you have a proactive approach that reduces the likelihood of the application being exploited.
Indeed.
And another point might be that by prioritizing security early, you lower your time to market, because you have to do less security testing and remediation post-implementation.
Even less development, because if you've started some development without security in mind, and you go in the very end, you even go to production and you find security problems, it's going to cost you a lot of time and money to remove them. And probably not even that. You might have even a reputation losses, or you might lose money. It depends on the situation that you're facing.
Exactly. As I said earlier, you can always skip security altogether.
Yes.
But
yes.
now you're simply risking your business and your reputation.
Yes. And that sounds all very good on paper, sort of like it sort of sounds easy when we talk about it here. You implement that, we implement this. You hire some people, you do some tools, you implement some tools. But what are actually the challenges? Because I do see a lot of challenges.
I've seen two main challenges from the experience that I have. First one is the skill shortage. So in order to have a proper secure software development lifecycle, you need to have people who can actually implement it. Security engineers, DevSecOps engineers, also security aware project managers, and all the different other roles. And also very important, you need to have developers that are trained to write secure code and create secure by design architectures. Now, on the last point about the developers, in my opinion, if people show interest in that, the organization should definitely invest in such trainings. Like there are lots of platforms already, but in my opinion, I highly recommend Secure Code Warriors and Secure FAQ.
Indeed.
Yeah, simply the best.
Indeed. I want to say that from my point of view, I think that Secure Warrior is the most mature one
Yes.
at the moment, but Secure Flag also has a lot of good features. And I think that they have even trainings, not only for developer, but they have for DevOps people as well, which is also a valid point because everybody is in that boat.
Yeah, and you can also invest in some internal custom-made training materials.
Of course, but then again, you need to have that expert.
Exactly, yeah.
That's also hard. You know, one good training is going to take a lot of time and effort on somebody's side.
Yeah, and another challenge might be the mindset of the people. In some of the projects that I've been working, security is treated a bit like a bottleneck, that it's crippling the engineers from writing fast and pretty applications. Here, again, the solution, in my opinion, would be to have a balanced approach and don't create unrealistic or hard to meet requirements.
Yes, and also another thing that which I want to empathize here is you mentioned developers writing fast code. Developers are not expected to write always a secure code. That is the security domain is quite big, and if we go that lane, there might be people who are expecting developers to be not only developers, QAs, DevOps, and then security. Those are different positions. We cannot expect them to know everything and to do everything on their own. And most of the time, their main job is to develop something, to produce you something. They're not going to be able to see all the problems that might come from this software that they're developing. And it's good for them to learn, to educate themselves in that direction, for you to open their mindset in that direction even. But you cannot rely simply on them to do everything on their own.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a big misconception that developers by default write secure code, and that's really not the case.
Of course, and also when we talk about quality, you cannot say that one software is having quality if it does not have security. I'm also seeing on different occasions, that quality assurance does not include very comprehensive security testing, because that is like, again, ethical hacking or understanding and doing good extensive security tests is also very hard, and you require special skills to do that not all the QAs possess nowadays.
Yeah.
Into those challenges also, I want to add something. Probably the main, because my point of view is a little bit different from yours. Yours is more technical, mine is more, let's say, on the management side. The main problem which I see with security when it comes to it is the management.
Yeah.
If the management does not adopt the security mindset, or you don't have management in your corner when you try to initialize any event or any initiative with security, you're going to fail. Because if your manager, security is not priority for him, it's not going to be priority for you. Even if you want to, you're not going to have time, or he's going to disapprove that at some moment.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally agree.
So security, I believe that people need to understand this. We're moving very fast to digitalization, and we need to learn how to protect ourselves and our businesses. And security is not going anywhere. We need to adopt it. Like you have locks on your house, you need to adopt that. You need to adopt that mindset. Security needs to start having a place on the decision-making table. And we should, as a community, we should really try to incorporate it as earlier as possible to achieve that shift left effect.
Yeah.
And you talked about secure coding. What are the fundamental principles of secure coding, since you have background as a developer? And I might say a very good Java developer.
Thank you. Before that, can I reiterate that gaining the executive support
Of course,
in
of course.
implementing secure software development lifecycle is indeed very important, and you need to highlight the potential impact of security breaches on the business and make sure that you have allocated enough resources to support you, like personnel, tools, or budget. Yeah. Now, onto the question. It's a bit hard to answer this one. I can't really say what are the fundamental principles, but in general, there's this concept called, when coding, that it's called happy path. Happy path basically is the default scenario with all the valid inputs, no exceptions, no errors, simply the functionality as it is. And I've seen a lot of developers focus on that, and instead I suggest people pivot more to the unhappy path, meaning adopting principles like fail fast or fail safe. So to elaborate on that, the idea of the fail fast and fail safe principles are to always validate and ensure that the input you're receiving to the functionality is fine, and if not, terminate safely, and exit the execution as quickly as possible. That was sort of a philosophical approach. Now on to the practical tips. Again, when developing software, you should always think about the following. First, validation and sanitization of user input. Next is the access control, of course. Actually, there is this joke where all made from stars, but your RBAC shouldn't be. So for those who got it, I'll get you a beer. For the rest, the normal people, I'll explain. RBAC is role-based access control, and star is the wildcard symbol. So please make sure you don't give access to everybody to everything.
Which unfortunately is also common practice.
Absolutely.
Now, we all know what we shouldn't do, but in the end of the day, what we do, what I see in our day-to-day job is that there are a lot of mistakes. People do not do it intentionally, actually. Some of the times they need the proper guidance or they missed something.
Yeah. Other useful tips might be, of course, always use up-to-date dependencies without known vulnerabilities. Sorry. And well, always when you're unsure about your implementation, refer to OWASP, and more specifically their Software Assurance Maturity Model, or SAM. And by the way, OWASP provide great cheat sheets for both backend and front-end technologies, so you can use them as well.
Indeed. OPS has a lot of free resources. I'm pretty sure that we all love them. They're doing quite a big impact and contribution to the whole web application security landscape all over the world. And they even have OWASP, top 10 for LLM vulnerabilities, for large language model vulnerabilities. So anybody who is interested in that jurisdiction, I believe that there are people who are starting to develop in terms of AI red teaming, can have a look at that.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot about secure software development. What are the latest trends at the moment?
Well, the introduction of continuous security. So we already have continuous integration and continuous deployment, but now we have also continuous security. Basically, that means that the application is being constantly tested by both automated tools like software composition analysis to static code analysis, dynamic or even interactive application security testing, and of course manually by penetration testers. Another huge trend that I'm seeing is policy as a code or governance as a code. Similarly to how we have infrastructure as code, now we have policy as a code, and this is getting a lot of attention. Tools like Open Policy Agent are being adopted in order to automate all of the previously defined security requirements in the application. Additionally, well, since most of the software today is built to be cloud native, aka it runs in a container, in a Kubernetes cluster, runtime security is a huge topic there, and tools like Falco that can alert upon suspicious activity in the host, of course, or the container, are being heavily used. And by the way, a couple of months ago, I believe Falco became part of CNCF, Cloud Native Computing Foundation, which shows how great and important it is. And yeah, of course, AI. It's a huge trend.
Indeed.
In terms of application security, for example, GitHub Copilot is getting better and better and in writing less vulnerable code and also in the fixes that it suggests. And I'm a big fan of CodeQL. Won't go into the details, but simply said, CodeQL creates a tree-like structure from your source code and enables you to query it for different things. For example, you can create a query that returns all methods that accept user input and use it for some sensitive operation. So you can imagine CodeQL combined with AI could be a powerful weapon when you're doing code reviews and, of course, threat models.
Indeed. And I even saw that GitLab, and I think their latest release, 17, they also introduced some AI impact analytic dashboards. So I'm seeing that more and more even big names out there are starting to use artificial intelligence in terms of how they're processing data and giving meaningful information to the customers, to their customers. So if people react to use it in, let's say, the accurate way, I do believe that it brings a lot of benefits to them.
Of course, it's a tool. If you can use it to leverage it, or you'll be left behind.
Indeed. I do believe that we all need to get in this hype and we need to start using it. Because like I said, somebody else is going to fast forward to us if we don't do it. And you mentioned threat modeling. Can you elaborate a little bit for everybody who's watching on the threat modeling? What is it in general? And can we actually also use artificial intelligence with threat modeling?
Yes, so threat modeling is an activity for improving security by identifying different threats and then defining countermeasures to them in order to prevent those threats. Personally, when I do threat model on a given new feature, roughly speaking, I do the following. First, I create a data flow map. Then for every point of the map, I think about potential issues. And finally, for each identified issue, I think of a compensating control. Of course, that's a very simplified view, but the general idea is the same. Now, threat modeling is important because it enables you to identify issues early, and also it gives you some kind of assurance that the application or the feature is somewhat secure.
Indeed.
By the way, there are large language models like Stride GPT that can be super helpful in that, and they they are able to create threat models. Although it's still in beta, it looks very promising.
And when you mention threat model, who should participate whenever we are, ideally I'm talking here, who should participate whenever we're doing a threat model? In our organization, be for one of our services, something we're developing, the organization itself. Truth be told, I think that you can do threat modeling on everything. As a concept, you can do threat modeling to completely everything.
It can be applied to everything in general. And usually, threat model is done by the whole team with the assistance of a security engineer who is guiding them on the whole process.
Yes. And that is ideally what should be done. Even if people, I want to point here something, that even if people do not have the accurate security experts, they can always start to do threat modeling on their own. There are a lot of good materials. We've been talking about threat modeling for so long, and I still don't see so many companies doing it, which is very sad, because it's not that hard. Most of the time people are afraid of the new things or think that this is very hard. Probably in the beginning you're not going to have the best model. You're not going to be able to catch all the threats, but you're at least going to start in that direction. You're going to start to build that mindset.
Yeah, it's an iterative process.
Yes, it's a long process. It's a journey, but I do believe it's very beneficial, not only for you finding threats, but for you to understand better, if we're talking about the software that you're developing, because like you said, everybody needs to participate. One view has a developer, one view has the QA, one view has a security engineer, DevOps, etc. It helps you understand and brings that level of awareness of people, even outside of their organizations, not only in their organizations.
Yeah.
Okay, threat modeling. What about runtime security? Can we, I don't know. Why is it essential for us to actually have runtime security, and can we leverage again?
Actually, before that, can we talk about threat modeling again? But how can AI assist you in that?
Of course.
Yeah. Well, in my opinions, using large language models can give you a lot of advantages. First of all, now non-security experts can participate and actually create the threat models by themselves.
Okay.
Which of course brings another benefit. Instead of helping the teams to create the threat models, now the security engineers can focus on more complex things. And another advantage would be, well, since now many people are taking part of that and can view, create, or interact with the threat model, this results in more security-aware culture in the organization. And yeah, well, maybe as a final point, since the tool's output is not discarded, but instead used to enrich the model, actually with every iteration, it gets better.
Yeah, the model is going to learn from itself.
Yeah. And now, what was your other question?
The runtime security.
Yeah.
We did mention that in the beginning. And it's, again, I would say a hot topic at the moment. Mostly, I want to say in containers. I've heard mostly about that. But yeah, what is runtime security? Why is it essential for us? Why are we even talking about it?
Well, runtime security provides active protection for the application and the workloads, of course, while they're running, hence the name, runtime.
Yes, because most of the time we have everything, let's say, before the application is run. Most of our security measures are implemented before that, and it's another layer for us to implement it on the runtime to make sure that everything is running as smoothly as we expected.
Exactly. So, for an example, RASP checks in the mobile applications are extremely important. Things like anti-root, anti-debug, file tampering, or I don't know, maybe anti-hooking, SSL pinning mechanisms are extremely important for both iOS and Android. On the backend, we can leverage directly embedded in the code agents that monitor for suspicious activities. And yeah, as I said earlier, in the container or the host, solutions like Falco, once again, very good, can be leveraged. So yeah, in a nutshell, in my opinion, runtime security is super important and it shouldn't be left out.
And what about artificial intelligence? Can we have that on top of runtime security?
Of course, yeah. They're actually an ideal partner for runtime security simply because machine learning algorithms and models are great for analyzing huge amount of data quickly and also in spotting abnormal behaviors. Additionally, I believe we are not fully there yet, but in the future, I imagine AI algorithms will be able to automatically respond to threats and, of course, probably do behavioral or predictive analysis of the end users, which, of course, can drastically reduce the chance of a successful exploitation of a given vulnerability.
If we do it the right way.
Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, because we're not going to have a lot of time, unfortunately, when we talk about artificial intelligence, what is your takeaway when we are putting that in vulnerability assessment and penetration testing? Because that's also a subject that is being vastly discussed. Can we implement that? Can we leverage on it?
Yeah, I think there are already solutions that are using AI. However, at the moment, I don't believe that they're mature enough, and usually they produce a lot of false positives that at the end of the day, a security engineer or someone who understands the topic should review.
Indeed. The situation is that, again, it's a good let's say starting point, but it's not mature enough on 100% yet, because artificial intelligence can help you, but if you inject and you can even if you inject information from different sources, let's say vulnerability tools, other tools in terms of logging, monitoring, etc., they can help you build the whole attack vector, which is extremely big amount of information that somebody needs to process on their own. So in that that area, artificial intelligence can help you a lot. But in the end, if you inject, because we're talking here about automated tools, everybody who has been working with them knows that there are always going to be false positives at the end of the day. And if you inject those tools with all the false positives, you're not going to have adequate information from the artificial intelligence in the end. So I want to second you on that. We're not there yet to single-handedly handle all of the work to artificial intelligence. We still need the expert behind it. It's still a machine, and we still haven't gone there.
At the moment, yes. In the future, that might not be the case, but yeah, we're not there yet.
We're not there. Hopefully, we'll be in a couple of years. Let's see how it goes. I mean, a couple of years back, we weren't even discussing this.
Yeah, exactly.
I believe big data and artificial intelligence have always been a topic, I think even from the 60s or the 70s.
And before that, yeah.
Yeah, and now we have the ability to actually explore them and to see what they're capable of. Yeah. Okay, before we start with the questions, if anybody has questions, please go ahead and write them. But before we start with questions, something which I want to actually bring to the table, because it's quite important in my perspective. Exactly 2 weeks prior, the European Union approved the Artificial Intelligence Act, which at the moment is considered the most mature regulation or law in terms of artificial intelligence. Now, over the past couple of years, we've seen different countries trying to provide laws for artificial intelligence. Of course, US and China being one of the top ones. But I think that this one, because it's for the whole European Union, is the most massive one, and it's really long and detailed. So that is actually something very interesting, because with GDPR and with most of the other regulations, we have been mostly reactive, something which you mentioned. Here we're being proactive, and actually that's a good trend. I mean, this is probably not going to be ideal. I'm not a lawyer, I cannot judge it, but we're learning and we're trying to improve over time. Now, why is this important? We here are located in Bulgaria, part of the European Union. We're going to be obligated by this law.
Yeah.
Also, everybody who is working with the with companies in the union is going to be obligated with it.
Also having users from Europe.
Yes, also having users indeed, which are using artificial intelligence in their software. Now, this law is not only for people who are developing artificial intelligence for commercial use, and it's also for open source.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read this because, again, it's a lot of legal terms here for me, but the act is classifying the applications by their risk of causing harm, which is they're going to the perspective of human rights here. We're making sure that the artificial intelligence is not going to break any rights there. There are 4 levels of risk. And it's going to be, it is already unacceptable, high, limited, minimal, plus the category of general purpose AI. The applications with the unacceptable risk are going to be banned, which is going to, there's going to be a small exception for military and security
that's the
defenses.
ambiguity.
Yeah, and high-risk applications must comply with the security, transparency, and quality obligations. And I would say that most of the security requirements in my end, but in my point of view, are quite standard. Probably for some people they might be more excessive, so it's a good thing to get in touch with this regulation. It's already public, in this law. It's already public, so you can read it, you can have a look at it. And yes, it will come into force 20 days after being published in the official journal. And there will be some delay for the bans and unacceptable risk for 6 months. So they're going to credit some delays.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to know. But everybody who is using artificial intelligence and is operating in Europe, like I said, needs to be aware of this. It is coming.
In the next 2 years, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the reactions are quite different. What is your opinion on this?
Well, it's a bit too early to actually have an opinion on the topic. Personally, I feel like passing or creating a wall is one thing, but actually enforcing the rules in it is another. So yeah, you will see how this will play out.
Indeed, the reaction which I'm seeing is quite controversial. Some of the people are happy that we have sort of we're going in this direction, but then again, it's a good legal frame for the situation in terms of artificial intelligence, or a good starting point, but it's not very technical in the end of the day. And even lawyers who are more in depth in understanding in that are saying that there are small gaps in that law, some ways. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. It's going to be interesting, like the learning curve with GDPR that we had. And in the question section, we have a couple of questions. The first one is, what are the benefits and risks of integrating artificial intelligence into cybersecurity for applications?
Yeah, if you want, you can take this.
Okay, so from my perspective, the main risks are going to be, I think we already mentioned some of them, but outside of having adequate specialists who are very in detailed in understanding of that, is also going to be the false positives which are being produced, like I already mentioned that. And whenever you're integrating something which you're not 100% familiar with, you're opening probably most likely gaps for other malicious users who are more in-depth understanding the software. Now, not saying that you should not use it, you should use it cautiously.
Yeah.
So yes, anything you want to add to that?
Well, as we said earlier, AI safety and AI security should always be taken in consideration.
Yes, it's also the ethical aspect of integrating artificial intelligence, like I say, because you're going to grant that software to make some decisions for you. So that might be a risk for your organization. It depends what your situation is. Another question, artificial intelligence be used to predict and prevent cyber attacks before they happen, but how is it effective? Is it actually effective? Do we have that data to comment on that yet?
Might be wrong here, but I haven't seen any practical scenarios where an AI could predict something with high certainty.
I want to be honest, I've seen very good work in this direction from different companies which are fastly adopting AI. Not so much in the application security part, most of the SOC CM part.
And also endpoint protection endpoint, I mean laptops, smartphones.
Indeed. And I've seen a lot of good work there. And in the end of the day, to me, all of these technologies, you have so many technologies. It all depends how you manage and configure them. The best tool that you can purchase, if you're not managing it and correctly using it, you're not going to see the benefit and the value of it.
Yeah.
So in terms of effectiveness, I'm not 100% sure I've actually seen it being very effective at the moment. Like I said, I've seen a couple of good examples of software which is claiming to do that. However, the other considerations that I have, the information that you're feeding it, is not always going to give you the best output. But if we go into that fact that you don't have a lot of measures or a lot of people to help you in terms of understanding and preventing security, this is going to help you a lot.
Yeah, especially if it's possible to self-host it and use it only internally.
Yes, indeed. Okay, and there's this one last question, as far as I believe. What are some real-world examples where AI has significantly improved application security?
Real world, real life?
Yes. Real life examples. In the tools who are mostly used for threat intelligence, for vulnerability assessment. For vulnerability assessment, I actually think that AI has a very good benefit here. Probably you're gonna disagree with me on that one, but if we have that following situation when you don't have security experts and you're doing vulnerability assessment and you're getting, that most of the time you're getting a lot of false positives from SaaS, DAST, software composition analysis, secret detection, etc., all the different modules that you can implement. And somebody needs to review them. And that's a lot of work if you need to do it manually. And then you can have a tool which has actually artificial intelligence, which is doing that on your behalf.
Yes. However, I still believe that the final word should be of a person who is actually an expert in the topic. If not a security engineer, then at least with some knowledge in the area.
Indeed. We don't have any other questions. So I'm going to be closing this session. Any last words that you want to share with us, Jordan? Any recommendations for the people who are yet to adopt secure software development or use artificial intelligence in that matter of application security?
Well, no, actually no final words.
For me, the coin has two sides, and there are also the benefits and there are the downside. Everything which is used with caution is going to be indeed the right approach at the moment. We are yet to see how the situation is going to go, but there are a lot of benefits, and we need to up our game in terms of cyber defenses if we want to do a good job. So artificial intelligence needs to become part of day-to-day job of the security experts.
Yeah.
We're going to need to be well aware of the Gen AI, of the LLM, and the other technologies, and the possible risks and vulnerabilities. So we cannot escape it. We need to accept it. And the people who survive are the people who adapt.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally agree.
So thank you for watching. We wish you a very good day, and we're going to be seeing you on our next session.
Thank you.